Hi, my name is Jeff Rhodes, and this is another video on Microsoft 365 based on my book, Creating Business Applications with Microsoft 365. So check it out if you haven't. You can get it on Amazon or other places. Since I did it on video, I got another rating, so appreciate that. And we can look, see how it's doing today. So not too bad, number 16 in SharePoint Guide. So again, check it out if you have a chance. So this is really the third in kind of a three-part series. We some time ago looked at doing electronic signatures. We looked at DocuSign and Adobe Acrobat Sign. And then my most recent video is we looked at how to do a Power BI visualization of the data. And last but not least is really today we're going to talk about a Power Apps front end. So kind of review, this is the DocuSign version, the SharePoint list. And when I did the original video, I just entered in, use SharePoint to initiate it. And that's what triggered the Power Automate flow, which we'll look at a little bit later. And that's fine, but it really shows where Power Apps can add some value because if we were going to actually deploy a system like this, we only want the user of the application to put in the title, the email, the name, subject, and body. And then all the rest of this, the status, the DocuSign status, the envelope, and so forth, we're using SharePoint like a database. So those are just values that we write to it, but we don't want the user to start editing that or putting it in. And so even though you can go in SharePoint and kind of remove those from the form, but it's all a bit funky and we can't put any good logic in there and so forth. So what we're going to do now is just go in instead and go into Power Apps. So I'll jump into these flows later just to show they work. But let's go over to Power Apps. We're going to do a blank app, blank canvas app, and we'll just call it Video Front End for eSignature. Call it that. We'll put the tablet interface on there. And so the first thing we're going to want to do is connect to our SharePoint list. So we'll come up here and just type in SharePoint. And it doesn't matter which one of these we'll pick. And it should find my samples. And I'm going to link up and do DocuSign test. So that gets us access so we can read and write to SharePoint. So from here, we just basically going to build a simple form. And you might notice I didn't use the template. And I'm not a huge fan. In a real complicated SharePoint list, when you want to fill in almost all the columns, then I think the form template and having the edit form and the display form and so forth is good. And it can be a lot simpler. But here I want to patch instead. So I want to go ahead and control it. I don't need to use the form control. I'm not editing any data. I'm just going to input it the first time. So I'll come back over here. And let me insert a label. I usually like to put like a welcome at the top there. So we'll start with that. And we'll just say welcome. And I'll put the person's name. So we got the user dot full name. And I can put that as center. Go and change the font maybe to 20. And say the fill. I'll just say color dot navy. And we'll change the color here to white. There we go. All right, so there's a little thing. Now we're basically just going to want to put in those things I said. So we'll just see how quickly we can do that. So we'll say title, and we'll insert a text input. And this is another thing that's kind of nice. We'll kind of put that in, something like that. So I'm going to put the default here because I don't read, whatever the name of my form, just going to say, sample form. I'll just call it maybe even better, because in real life this will be an actual form. So we'll just say form to authorize XYZ. So we don't know what that is, but we can pre-code that, because most likely, since we're sending this out to a bunch of different people, those will all be the same. You know, we don't necessarily need to have, as far as the title of the form, might be something about the same every time. I was trying to make those so they overlapped a little bit. Let's do that. That's closer. Okay. And we'll put the recipient. In this case, you know, we could forget the first and last name, but that's not how I did it the first time. So that one, I want the default to not have anything. Oh, looks like I got 2 colons in there. I'll just do a few more of these. Won't spend the time to really line them up, but let's see. So I've got the recipient email. I'll call this subject. And body. And this one I want to have multiple lines. So I can do that and kind of drag this down a little bit. Let me go look. I kind of forgotten if I had a notes column. Sometimes I'll put a notes. Yeah, there's not. There's a reason here. But if I'd have put a notes, I could maybe make that optional. So that's another thing we can do here. I should put a little asterisk to kind of show that it's required as well. Whoops. There we go. I didn't quite make that long enough, so let's move all these over a little bit. Make that a little wider. Just come over here. Make this 160 so it doesn't wrap. There we go. And body. There we go. Let's see if we got everything. Yeah, because we don't want to set the status. It'll automatically set to whatever our default is. So the next thing we want to do is, well, let me rename these, because I don't like all these. We got our code. I'm not going to worry about the labels, but we need to call this like title box and recipient name box. Recipient email box. Subject box and body box. And I did make that plain text. Otherwise, I would put in a, rich text editor if this has been rich text. So the next thing I'll do is I like to have a field that will like that. And I'll just say, please enter a title, recipient name, email address, in valid format, subject and body. And we'll make that like a maroon kind of thing, maybe make it bold, something like that. And the idea is we'll, let's rename that so we know what we're doing, but we'll want to set the visible of that to match. All right, so what we want to do now is work on the visible. So instead of this being true, we basically want to only make it true if all those things aren't true. So if they're not, like if they don't have a title or whatever. So I like to use is blank here. So we'll say is blank title box dot text, or is blank recipient name. And you can use the pipes or the or. It's a little easier to read the or, so that's why I'm doing that. If you don't know what the pipes mean. Now we're going to also go back and look at the format. But first let me get all the blanks in there. Oops. Or, oh, I said dot box instead of dot text. So if any of those are blank, then we show the form. So there we go. Move this down. I like to format it a little bit. So let's test that first. So we can come up here and test. And so if I put stuff in, notice as soon as I put something in body, then if I take it away, it comes back. So that's so far so good. But what we also want to do is we like to have that email address be a valid format. So let's see if we can do that. So let's go back to this. And now we say there's an is match function, which is kind of nice. So if we say is match, and then notice it'll look, it tells us what the text it is and what the format. So the text again is recipient email box dot text, and then the format is email match dot email. And this will be a true or false. So we actually want to say is not is match. So let's try that. See if I did that right or not. So we'll put something in all the rest of these. And here so notice it doesn't go away. But if I say A at B dot com or dot net, it goes away. So we've got the valid format. So it looks like that did work. So that's kind of nice. So we're almost done here actually, except for the patch part. So what we want to do now is insert a button. Oops, that wasn't very good. Put it over here and we'll just call it submit. Or maybe I'll say send form. Maybe I'll say save and send form. I'll just make it a little wider. So let's just make this like 200, 250. There we go. Now I like to rename this button as well. So we'll say submit button. And if you've watched my other videos, you know I'm going to be doing patch here, my favorite functions. So I'm going to say patch, but if you haven't done it, notice that we want to do the source first. So that should be DocuSign test, that's our list. And then the second one is the record, but since we want to do a new record, we just say defaults. And again, it gives us a source. That's that same DocuSign test. So that will write the values that we specify as the next parameters, and then anything we don't specify will just do whatever's the default, which will be either blank or in something like status will be the new status. And then what we want to do is brackets, And notice how it's already coming up with the names of the columns. So we'll just do title, and that'll be title box. You can see why I renamed those, because I can keep it straight and I don't know, just say text box 1 and so forth. Text, and then we had recipient. I'm quite sure why that didn't work. Let's go. Oh, I didn't actually say, in this case, I just did name, not recipient name. So that's why I couldn't find it. So we'll just say name. There we go. And the second parameter is the name of our object inside of Power App. So that is recipient name box. And then we'll say email box.text. Oh, and actually I'll finish all this, and I forgot to use my arrow label, so I'll do that in a minute. But we'll get this part, and then we'll put it inside of an if. So we'll say subject box.text body box.text, and format that. Good, that shows us that we did it right. So let's cut all this for a minute, because I forgot to do the arrow label. So it's a little clearer if we just do that without it. So what we want to say, if arrow label, so I didn't capitalize that, dot visible false. So that means we don't do anything. Otherwise, so that means it's not visible, then we paste all that in. We can format all that. So that's kind of what we want. So it will, if we have all the required information, it'll patch it, put the default in, write the stuff that's inside here. That'll kick off the Power Automate flow. So only last thing we want to do, again, only if it's true, we want to reset the whole form. So right here, we want to basically go through so that they can type in, if they're doing data entry, they can type in one after another. They don't have to like clear it out or anything like that. And we also want to notify them and told them it worked. So we just put the semicolon in, and we'll say notify, and we'll say information saved, and email is being sent. And we say notification type success, which give them a green error or green box like that. So that's good. And now we want to go ahead and reset. So we just reset each thing. Title box. Oops, semicolon between each one. Reset. Recipient name box. Reset recipient email box. Reset subject box. Reset body box. And again, format text. So that always shows us that, whoops, sometimes I do that where I can't get it, but I can also, let me just maximize that for a minute to get it back. There we go. Bring it back inside the screen. There we go. Should be an email. All right, let's see. We haven't even saved this, so I should have saved it. Oops. Will allow me to save first. There we go. I guess it has the name, so we'll go ahead and publish it real quick. And let's try it. So I'll say, okay, recipient Get my name in here. Do my Gmail one, which is pretty fast. Oops. I could type. And it's a test from Power Apps video, and we'll say test body from video. Maybe I'll say line 3 just to show that it can do it. So let's save and send form. There we go. You can see that was the notify. The reset is that it sent, cleared all these out. If I had changed the title, it would have done that as well. So let's go over to SharePoint first. So you can see, oh, it actually hasn't done it. That was the one for my Power BI video. It hasn't actually kicked in. Yeah, there you go. So there's the form to authorize XYZ, my email, name, subject, body, and then it put the new status because the default and all the rest of these are blank. So let's go look. You saw this in another video, but this is the flow that's tied to that list. So let's go back and look at it. My things might have lost some changes. Let's go refresh that and see if it has kicked off yet. Oh yeah, 36 seconds ago. So if I actually refresh this, I should, oh, it did already. See, the envelope ID has been written now and it sent it to the user. So let me go over, pause for a minute because I hadn't opened up my Gmail. So be right back. All right, I'm back and I opened up my Gmail. So here's the one that I just sent. It says, notice there's where that body came through, came from the subject there. So I can review this document. It's not very pretty, just a quick text or test document, but I can continue on 3 happy way, sign it, and finish. I don't need to save my copy of it. I've got another one that's waiting for that status and it's looking for that envelope ID to write it back to SharePoint. So let's go out of here and see if that's kicked in yet. Hasn't kicked it in yet, but let's see if it, there we go, it's running. It's like it's running twice for whatever reason. Probably one for the submitting it, one completing the workflow. There we go. So if we come back and reload this, it's now received the signature. DocuSign status is written as completed. And it puts date sent and that kind of stuff. So if we actually go into this and open it, we should see the signed form. Oh yeah, and I think it's kicking off twice. I probably have done it. That's why we've got 2 of them and why it ran twice. But in any event, there's the signed form. And then if you look at our last video, it showed how to get that in Power BI and have an attachment. So you don't even have to go to SharePoint at all. You can use Power BI and view the attachment that way. So again, use SharePoint as the database. In this case, you could have switched it over to Dataverse if you've got the licensing, given a front end in Power Apps that writes the data to SharePoint, which kicks out off the Power Automate flow. So hope this was helpful. We'll see you next time.